and welcome to the Art of Decluttering podcast. I'm your host, Amy Revell. Welcome. I'm so glad that I can lend you my voice, you can lend me your ears, and we can have a conversation about all things decluttering and organizing. If you are new to the show, I just want to extend a special welcome to you. I am celebrating today the podcast's 7-year anniversary. In 7 years, there has never yet been a Monday where an episode has not been dropped, which I'm so proud of. It also means that there are a bajillion podcast episodes. I'm just trying to have a look what number we're up to at the moment. Let me see if I can find it. No, can't even find it. It's like over 400 and maybe over 430. There are so many podcast episodes for you to choose from. I got 2 messages in the last 2 weeks from people saying they are starting at the start. I'm like, girlfriends, don't start at the start because so much has happened in 7 years. Like, start at the start of the season, or maybe even start at the start of season 2. It's a big commitment to start from the start. But for those of you who have done it, I applaud you and I thank you. If that is you, might be time for you to leave a review. There's always a link in the show notes where you can leave a review. You can either do it in your podcast app on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or what a lot of people do is just leave a Google review because it means it's so much easier for people to find. Now, what we're talking about today is a topic that I've really kind of had renewed excitement about. I've always called it delaying purchasing or delayed purchasing, or, putting timeframes around things so that you don't make really quick decisions on things and you're not like impulse buying, right? So the concept is like, how do we counteract impulse buying? And I've got a whole episode called Delaying Purchasing, which I'll link to in the show notes that you can listen to. And I just think since I recorded that episode 4 years ago, so many new ways and so many different things have kind of come into my mind and my thinking around how we can actually be really intentional about when we're purchasing. And so this like delayed decision making, blah, blah, blah. And I was watching a interview interestingly, with our guest from last week, Dawn Madsen, and she was interviewing Cass from Clutterbug, and they were just talking about a whole lot of different things. They were talking about this topic, and Dawn just dropped a phrase that I thought was just perfect. She called it two-factor authentication on your purchases. And so concept being is like you go to make a purchase and you need to do something else or check another box or tick another thing in order for the purchase to go ahead. Now, obviously, no retailer is going to make you check unnecessary boxes. Like when you set up a retail store, and I used to own an online retail kids party supply business, you want to make it so easy for people to go click an item they want to check out. You want that to be the quickest, most succinct, least amount of clicks process possible. But as people who live intentionally and as minimalists, either at heart or in practice, how do we kind of give ourselves these safety guardrails so that we're less likely to purchase things that we don't need? We're less likely to accumulate clutter without being intentional about it. And I love the concept of the two-factor authentication. And so what I want to talk about is different ways that you can delay that decision making, different ways you can enact two-factor authentication on your purchases. Scott Pate, Barefoot Investor, I know he talks a little bit about, making sure that if you're spending a large amount of money, that you maybe even enforce a time period that you have to sit on that decision. And I really like that. I found that particularly helpful when working with kids or my own kids and going, okay, if you want to make a big purchase, that's fine, but we're actually going to need you to wait a week before you make that purchase just so you can think about it. I'm often talking to clients about and then what do you do in that week? Well, maybe you research. Maybe you see if there's a better product on the market. Maybe you see if there's the same product at a cheaper price or an easier, more convenient way or a better warranty. Or maybe it's that you kind of spend that week going, would my life be any different if I did have this item? Or you find all the times that you would have used that item and you go, yeah, actually, this is a really good purchase because this is going to save me time or stress or energy or effort. Or maybe over the course of a week, you become really conscious of those times that you would use the product and figure out that you're actually problem solving and solving the problem in a completely different way. And you don't actually need the item. I think we've, made that process from seeing something we like to purchasing and having it in our hot little hands. We have condensed that to the shortest period of time. And you can literally order something on Amazon and have it at your door. And so this two-factor authentication concept is actually about enforcing your own lengthening of that process. I liked when the Barefoot Investor talks about like having different amounts of time for different dollar amounts. So if you're going to spend $100, it might be that you don't have to check with maybe a partner that you're sharing an account with or a home with. You have the freedom to make that decision, but you're going to say to yourself, I'm going to give it 24 hours. If you're making a $10,000 decision, it might be a conversation and waiting a month. You can kind of set the parameters of how that would work for you. But I think sometimes actually putting a dollar amount and a time amount, relating those and marrying those together can make a really big difference. One of the things that Cass from Clutterbug talks about is that she has someone else have her Amazon password. So she was saying like she just finds it too convenient. It's too tempting to be able to just click something and have it delivered. And whether it's overnight or the same day or a week later, like there's adrenaline and there's endorphins in hitting click, in hitting buy, and then you get another hit of endorphins when the item arrives. And so she was saying like her partner has the password of the Amazon account. So it's not that the partner is the gatekeeper and says, no, you can't, or yes, you can. It's not a control thing. It's about having that two-factor authentication. So it's about going, I want to buy this. Oh, I've got to bother getting up, finding my partner and going, oh, can you put in the password, right? And so like we have that for our kids. If they want to buy something online or whatever, they just need us to put in a password. Now we're not regulate, they're one's 16 and 18, but it's a two-factor authentication for them. It's a sanity check. It's a safety check for them. So maybe for you, it is about having somebody else have your password and it's a bit more inconvenient. Like how do we make purchasing inconvenient for ourselves? Because ultimately, two-factor authentication is so flipping inconvenient and annoying. It drives me crazy the amount of apps I use for work. And some of them I have to put an authenticator in every single time I use it. And I get why. Zero, financial stuff. I probably should put a two-factor in every time. And I do, but it just bothers me. And so what we're doing is we're making it inconvenient for ourselves. Okay, something that I do is I don't install shopping apps on my phone. So if I want to buy something, I actually have to go to the website, which sometimes is just a little bit more inconvenient. Sometimes the websites are not awesome for mobile, and so you have to do it on a computer. Sometimes I've gone through periods where it's like I can't buy anything on my phone. If I want to buy it, that's fine, but I actually need to go to my computer, set it up, go to the website, blah, blah, blah. You might find that you want to unsubscribe from marketing emails. Like it's the old school no advertising junk mail. Unsubscribe from marketing emails is giving yourself, it's kind of putting the two-factor authentication before you even see what you need or want. And so you're not getting this constant bombardment of, hey, do you want to buy this? Hey, you bet you didn't even know you needed this, da, 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 da. Like I don't get marketing emails for stuff. If I see something I need or if we, have a need around the house, I will go looking for it. Sometimes I would just do one Google search and then wait for automated ads to come up in my socials because I know that Google will do its job. But having not this bombardment and daily having emails come in, it actually increases your satisfaction because you're not constantly seeing all the things you don't have, should have, other people have, are available. Another two-factor authentication might be that you just want to ask yourself some questions before you make a purchase. You might just want to say, do I need it? Yes or no? Will I use it? Do I love it? You don't have to tick all of those. I've got a series called Do I Need It? Do I use it? Do I love it? I'll link to that. But it's not about saying it has to be all of them, but it might need to tick one of them before you buy it. I think sometimes what we can do is we will buy something, particularly if you're familiar with using some of the really, really cheap retail apps, Shein, Temu, there's a lot of them. If the only reason you're buying something is because it's so cheap, that is a terrible, terrible reason. And so I think sometimes the two-factor authentication might be you need to verbally or go through a checklist of how are you justifying this purchase? And if the only way you're justifying it is, but it was only $2 or $4 or I can't not get it, gosh, look at the price, then that might be the two-factor authentication that actually writes it off and you're like, yep, okay, I get it. I'm absolutely not going to do that. Another two-factor authentication could be that you're going to declutter the item that you're replacing first. So if you're saying to yourself, oh my gosh, I really need a new coffee machine. Okay, is the one that you've got so bad that you're going to declutter it first? Is it bin worthy? Okay, how do you feel about donating it to charity when you don't have a replacement? Sometimes it might be that thing where you're like, oh no, this one's totally fine. When the alternative is nothing, you may keep the older thing and not want to upgrade. And that might be what the two-factor authentication might look like for you. And it might be that you don't go into apps if you don't have to. It might be, as I said, that you've got somebody else has the password, that you delay a decision based on the amount of money that you spend, that you don't have apps on your phone, that you unsubscribe from emails, that you do the sanity check and ask those questions, or you try and solve the problem in a different way. But it is really important, no matter what you call it or how you do it, is that you're conscious and aware of this urge in us to just buy stuff for no good reason. So when you have that impulse and you just like, oh, I'm just going to buy it. And like when it's just Google Pay and you just tap your finger on the phone and it pays and the wallet's all set up, some of that stuff can be really, really challenging to be less impulsive and more intentional. And I just want to finish off by giving you one final idea. Now, this is an inconvenient idea, but for some of you, this may actually help you if you're finding that you are compulsively buying stuff online, is don't set up your Google Wallet or whatever it's called, like your iPhone wallet, Apple Pay. Instead, if you're going to buy something online, go and find your credit card, the physical thing, and tap in the numbers and purchase it that way. So you're still allowing yourself to do it, but what it does is it makes it inconvenient. And so you've got to think about it. Do I really want to spend $16 on this thing rather than having the $16 elsewhere? So I think sometimes, we've made it too easy and it doesn't seem like money's actually coming out of our accounts and it doesn't feel like we're intentionally cluttering up our homes, but it's exactly what we're doing. I just had one final thought that fleeted through my mind. And then the fleet has gone. Let me see if I can remember it. Oh, it's back. It came into my mind. I reckon I've heard this somewhere, or if I came up with it myself, I'm a genius. But if you would like to purchase something, all of your purchases come out of an account that's not linked to a card. And so you have to then go in and take money out of a savings account and transfer it to a debit account in order to make a purchase. So you're putting in the real inconvenience of having to go into your banking app, transfer money over. But what you're also doing is having to make a decision on every purchase versus savings. And you're actually seeing the money come out of savings and into a debit account so that you can make the purchase. Now, it is inconvenient, absolutely not denying that. In fact, that's the purpose of it. The purpose of all of these two-factor authentication on purchases things is to make you think, to make you go, is it worth it? To make me go, oh, am I being too impulsive? Or how do I be more intentional? And so maybe it literally is for you having to transfer the money over to make the purchase. What I'm not suggesting with any of this is that you need to be controlled either by yourself or by others. Well, self-control is a great thing. You don't need to be controlled by others. But I'm not saying you need to ask for permission. I'm not saying that somebody else should be in charge of your money. None of that nonsense. What I'm talking about is you being more intentional, because all the marketing companies and all the retail companies and all the app development companies are making it so easy for you to purchase things that actually sometimes you just need to take a hot minute and decide if you really do need to purchase that thing or want to, or will return it if it doesn't fit. And so I just want to help you to take back some of that control and be making really smart decisions that will help you, stay out of debt or get out of debt, not clutter up your homes, and actually be really intentional in your purchases. Okay, I feel like that was an Auntie Amy rant, but I really do think it's helpful. It's definitely helped me. I'm much less of an impulse buyer than I have been in the past. And I know that some of our clients, this is life-changing when they nail this. So thank you to everyone that I have referred to and quoted and talked about them talking and discussing this issue throughout the show. I would love you to come back next week, listen to some shows that are earlier in this season or last season. If you haven't gone through the 101 series, that is a great season to go back through, room by room, through the house, hot tips and tricks to help you get decluttered and organized in each space. So that's a great place to go if you're looking for the next episode to listen to. And until next week, enjoy the freedom. I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people who are the traditional custodians of the land this podcast is recorded on. I would also like to pay respects to their elders, both past and present, of the Kulin Nation, and extend that respect to other Indigenous Australians. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love you to rate and review the show on your podcast app. That will help others to find the Art of Decluttering podcast as well. If you'd like any more information, you can visit theartofdecluttering.com.au, and I would love to see you in my Facebook group. Just search the Art of Decluttering community on Facebook and join today. I hope that you have an incredible rest of your day and enjoy the freedom.